Hello, everybody. Richard C. Wilson here. I'm excited to have Dr. Robert Cialdini with me. This is one of the most exciting interviews that I've done in the last 17 years. I think this is right on par with interviewing Mark Cuban and Tony Robbins. So very exciting. Charles Munger, Warren Buffett credit Dr. Cialdini for making them so many millions of dollars that actually gifted them shares in their company. Also, if you haven't read Cialdini's books, which I know many of you have, he is the foundational preeminent expert on influence, and he's written Influence, Science of Persuasion, as well as Persuasion. Those two books alone could help somebody scale their business to 7 or 8 figures. It's what my business is built on at the core. If you've been to our investor club meetings, you know that. You've seen me quote and show Dr. Cialdini's face dozens of times on our PowerPoint slides. Cialdini has sold over 7 million copies of his books in 44 different languages and is referred to as essentially the Michael Jordan of getting people to say yes. And one thing I've really respected about Cialdini is that he always emphasizes genuine, authentic use of being influential. If you do it in a disingenuous way, then you look like a used car salesman and it actually kills your credibility. It backfires and now you have negative influence essentially. So I wanted to have Dr. Cialdini on here today to share how influence and persuasion relates to founders scaling their company, for investors, for people raising capital. And I'm excited to have you here today, Dr. Cialdini. So thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Richard. I'm glad to be with you.
Great. So I have a question. A lot of our founders are approaching normal high net worth investors that maybe are worth $1 to $5 million or $10 million, but also some of them are approaching people that are worth $100 million or billionaires, et cetera. And I'm just curious, with the highest net worth people in the world, the busiest people, what are the influence principles that are most effective? Because the whole point of influence is that none of us have the time to investigate every single little decision during the day, and we have to rely upon shortcuts to survive the day, right? So the busiest people in the world, on some level, I think, okay, well, influence would work the best on them. They're the busiest. But what would you comment on that?
Well, those people are not just the busiest, they're the most successful. The billionaires, the founders of companies, the people who are, and here's what they use as a shortcut. They take their own counsel. They trust themselves because they've got a history of doing well.
Right.
Taking their own counsel and thinking things through, rather than listening to people like you who are trying to move them in some other way. So what can you do under those circumstances? You find something in what they have already said or done that is consistent with your offer or proposal or recommendation for them. And you say, I'm so glad to be talking with you because of your existing commitment to X or Y or whatever it is. So now that you're not convincing them, they're convincing themselves, who are the only ones they listen to.
Wow, that's really powerful.
Level.
Yeah, that's another level. I've never thought about it that way.
Research. You have to do your research and find the things that they've said. But we've got the internet as our ally to show us all the white papers, all the talks they've given, all the statements they've made in their shareholders reports and so on, all the things that could link to what we can, what we are offering that's aligned with it. And you come in saying, I'm so glad we're aligned on this.
Right. Got it. So you point out that alignment and shine a little bit of a light on it. In Persuasion, you talk about how if you wanted to, well, going into an investment discussion, perhaps out of all the areas you could talk about, you could ask a few questions around something that you are somewhat aligned on, or is past actions they've done, which show they're already down this path, perhaps. And then by having that be in the frontal cortex of their brain already, then you could maybe find that alignment or talk about that alignment. And that comes up in your Persuasion book. You talk about that a few times, right?
Yes, it's exactly right. I'll give you a quick example. I have a friend who's a Boy Scout troop leader, and his boys, he's got 2 of them, they sell popcorn outside of the supermarkets on a a table. Would you like to
Right.
buy some popcorn? Well, most people don't, only 15% too, because if they wanted popcorn, they could buy it. All right, so I asked him, so what do you say when people come out? He said, would you like to buy some popcorn? And they all shake their head, no, no, thanks. And he said, but it would support the Boy Scouts. Well, they've already committed themselves to no. All right. So you lead with,
Hmm.
just as you were saying, you lead with something you know they support. All right.
Right.
And so I said, ask this. Excuse me, do you support the Boy Scouts? Everybody says yes. And then he said, would you like some popcorn? It would support the Boy Scouts. You go from 15% to 55% purchasers.
Interesting.
That's what you do. Exactly what you
Right.
were just articulating. You find ahead of time what it is that they have already valued or prioritized. And if
Okay.
it is relevant to your case, that's what you bring to the surface first
Huh.
and have them be consistent with their commitment that they've
Got
made.
it.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay, great. Awesome. Appreciate that. Yeah, with my daughters would sell lemonade, and then some people would drop a $20 bill and just say, "Oh, we support women entrepreneurs."
Right.
We should be saying that within the pitch, right? Do you support women entrepreneurs? You want to buy
E-
some ice cold lemonade? You know?
Exactly. Exactly. In fact, in that study I was telling you about with my friend, a lot of people would say to him, I don't want your popcorn, but I support the Boy Scouts, so here's five
Right.
bucks. You don't
Right.
you don't even lose your popcorn.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Awesome. So one thing I found is that, I've read a lot of self-improvement books. Brian Tracy was one of my early mentors. Dan Sullivan was one of my mentors, and Joe Polish, Dean Jackson, et cetera. And so when I study self-improvement, a lot of it is about how to improve your own mindset, your thinking, your focus. When I look at influence and it's about getting compliance and other people to say yes, I see the connection in that people in the investment world will not take you more seriously than you take yourself. They won't have more conviction in your idea than you have in your own idea. And so it comes down to how do you influence yourself? Like Stephen Covey would say, to be influential, you first need to be influenceable and
Right.
listen. But also, if you influence yourself first, it feels like then you have this ability to influence others at a much greater level. I don't know if that comes out in any of the research
Yeah.
that you've done, or if you have any suggestions on how to convince yourself to do the things you know you need to do and influence yourself in some way.
Yes, it does. And it is not only to make a set of goals that are achievable and you think are desirable, but to make those goals public. Don't just keep them to yourself.
Hmm.
Make them public,
Okay.
because especially to populations and audiences whose regard you care about. That will be a spur to your action to make sure that you will achieve those goals, because you don't want to lose the regard of people you've told these are your goals. These are
Right.
what you're striving for. You want them to have confidence in you moving forward. You will
Sure.
double down and make sure you get
Right.
that goal achievement.
Right. Right. Makes sense. Okay. So public statement of goals to people that, you respect the opinion of and you want them to hold you in high regard in return, basically, right?
Right.
Got it. Okay. So I have a question about kind of where the world is going, with AI, new, artificial intelligence videos, to most people. I mean, you can't even tell that they're fake or manipulated. Some obviously are because they're made to be comical, but little things can be adjusted where almost no one can know what's real or what's not, it seems, or at least we're headed that way very quickly. Um, there's a general mistrust of the media on one side or another, depending on who you talk to. And so as we race towards this world where on the surface level, you feel like you almost can't trust anything that your eyes used to tell you, oh, this is true, I've seen it. Or because I saw him say it, he must have said it. In this world where there's more of a lack of trust and everything feels like it could be fake, how does that impact the influence principles in your mind?
Yeah, I agree with you that that's the direction we're going. That the technology is giving us all this information, and it's very difficult to be to be confident in
Sure.
it, because we're losing human connection with
Right.
all of that. We're separating ourselves in almost every domain from one another.
Sure.
And my general response is to say, build human connection back into your communication strategies and even technologies.
Okay.
That is, so for example, there is a study that was done where researchers took the very same request and asked it on email, asked it via a phone call or a Zoom call, right?
Sure.
Or asked it face to face. People got 16 times more compliance face to face than by email with the same request.
Wow.
There's a person there. There's a human connection, and you can be
Right.
sure that all right. And in between was a phone call or a video call, right?
Sure.
Okay, so what's the implication? One implication: getting information out. Technology is great for that.
Sure.
Right? Letting people know your positions, all your strengths, and show them what you have on a website or an email and so on.
Right. Right.
It's not optimal for getting compliance.
Hmm.
That's not where you get the yes optimally. If you get that information out there, talk to people on the phone, but when
Right.
it comes down to getting a yes, get on a plane,
Right.
get in a car,
Right.
be there.
I
Right?
got to think that for very important decisions, like something you'd put a lot of weight on, for example, the extreme, obviously, if you're going to get married, you want to meet the person in person, probably, right? I mean, but less jokingly, if you're going to allocate more than $10,000, $25,000, $50,000 into an investment, if you're going to put $500,000, $250,000, or $1 million into something, I have to think it'd be even more magnified because the weight of your decision is so much. You'd want to make sure that credible expert has that deep trustworthiness,
That's
and you
right.
get that in-person feeling about that, right?
There have been two areas of marketing that have shown the greatest growth in the last decade or so.
Hmm.
One is handmade items.
Hmm.
The other is influencer marketing,
Right.
because there's a person
Hmm.
in each that there isn't, that you're getting in some sort of technologically mediated communication or
Right.
ad or email. There's a
Sure.
person there, and technology is separating us, and we're aching for human connection. You know,
Sure.
we do something we have a website called Cialdini, uh, the Cialdini Institute, right? And
Right.
it's Cialdini.com. And there's research to show that if you simply put a welcoming statement on the landing page of your website, before people read anything else, they've been welcomed in a human way, the way
Hmm.
that you would to somebody who came into your business or your home. You get significantly more conversion if you have a welcoming statement. They
Huh.
haven't seen a thing about what you have to say, but there's humanness there.
Right. Right. Got it. Do you think that one of the influence principles will be magnified as AI takes off and there's a lack of general trust? Is there one of them that stands out as like, well, if you weren't paying attention to this one before, you better now, because in this world of low trust, this one area becomes hyper important or critical for gaining compliance or getting someone to say yes? Does anyone stand out, or do you think it's just more about applying all those principles in person as much as possible
No, there are
versus?
three that stand out that
Okay.
both involve a very human exchange. One is reciprocation, that you're giving something first to people. You're
Okay.
benefiting them. You set up a relationship that's a reciprocal exchange. It's not just that one person is taking from. and you
Sure.
begin it. You begin it by giving.
Got
It's
it.
not that you thank people afterwards.
Right.
That ends the relationship. You begin
Right.
it by giving. There was a
Right.
study done in McDonald's. Every family that came in for a week, the kids got a balloon, right? Half of them got the balloon as they were leaving, as a nice thank you for frequenting the
Sure.
McDonald's. The other half got the balloon as they were entering.
Hmm.
Their parents bought 25% more food.
Wow.
It's the same balloon,
Right. Right.
but one begins an exchange and one ends it.
Right. I remember one of the stories you told us about the monks in the airport in Thailand that put a flower, and even when someone refused the flower and they stuffed it in their pocket, even though they didn't want it, they would like donate extra money on average because
Yeah,
they had received the flower they didn't
because of
want
this
even.
rule. So
Yeah.
reciprocity is one, liking is another one that where
Okay.
we're going to see more of, because of AI, we're going to
Yeah.
see more effect of liking, similarities and compliments that we can give to people, and um, and then unity, shared identities,
Got it.
shared goals and values. Those things bring about commonalities that I
Sure.
think will do us a good turn as technology increases.
Sure. Sure. Yeah. I think that the good news is if somebody puts authority positioning in place through the method of thought leadership, and you do a genuine job at doing so, it's not just having a title of a book behind your name. It's like if they actually read the book, they should get so much value that there's a sense of reciprocation. And now they've made money off your ideas for $8 or a free PDF and hopefully feel indebted. I mean, that's what happened with my team and you. I put my whole team through your Cialdini Institute because I told them I know these principles work, and we could hire some sales trainer that claims this, that, or the other. But our business is built off of Cialdini's principles, so it's zero risk to, pay for our whole team to go through your Cialdini Institute, which we did. So I appreciate you putting that together.
Well, I appreciate it, but let me tell you something I rarely tell people. I
Yep.
said I've been getting the Berkshire Hathaway reports every year.
Right.
Here's how I first got my issue of Berkshire Hathaway stock. I got an envelope in the mail. It was from Charlie Munger, and it was a single A share of Berkshire stock. It was worth $75,000 then. But
Wow.
he said, "You have made us so much money. By the rule of reciprocity, we owe you this.
Wow.
It's now over $600,000.
Wow.
That's the leverage that giving first does."
Right. That's amazing. That's amazing. I think putting powerful ideas out on a podcast or a book or YouTube channel is like mass reciprocation. Because if you can put value into the brains of 10,000 people,
Value.
just helps soften the ground, fertile ground, right? So that's awesome. I'll start going a little faster to make sure we get through these questions. So for those looking to influence investors, for people who are raising capital, for example, what could be done while prepping a pitch deck, materials, or just your pitch in general to make it extra persuasive, you think?
Begin with a puzzle. Begin with a mystery, because of something that's inherent in human psychology, the need for closure. When
Hmm.
something is open, like a mystery or a puzzle or something we don't understand, we need to know the answer,
Right.
right?
Right.
That's what these cliffhangers are doing all the time for us, right?
Sure.
If you begin with, how could this possibly be? Or of all the things that we've tried, I'm going to tell you about the one that it works the best, right?
Hmm.
And then tell them it's not this strength of ours. It's not this
Right.
strength of ours. It's not, they're going to be listening. They're going to be waiting for the one that is the biggest strength, all right?
Right.
And in the meantime, they've been processing everything you've been saying so they
Right.
can solve the mystery.
Got it. Got it. Makes sense. Okay. So to open a loop that they'll want to close psychologically to keep them, one thing we've been doing while optimizing our YouTube is realizing the percentage of the content they get through and watch decides how kind of viral the content goes. And it's exactly related to what you're saying, just because YouTube wants to maximize, high quality video.
Right.
If you are in person at one of our investment conferences or an investor summit, and you looked at the whole toolbox of persuasion and influence principles, does anything stand out for like an in-person event that we haven't talked about yet that maybe our investor club members could use?
For a first contact, find a commonality. Find something that you have in parallel, in common with a similarity with that person. It begins a sense of warmth and connection.
Okay.
And allows you to go branch from that to other things. And now you've begun a conversation and you've had a real interaction with somebody.
Sure. Makes sense. Okay. So after 40 years plus of studying influence now, what is central above all else, you think, for getting people around you to say yes to your requests? What do you think is kind of over the top once you've looked at kind of the meta research on everything? What is superior to keep in mind compared to everything else, you think?
It's something you said very, very early on in our interaction. It's having an ethical reputation. We need to be, I mean, the single thing across all these various interactions and industries and so on, the thing that keeps rising to the top, that people want to deal business with somebody who is ethical, who's not going to cheat them, who's not going to take advantage of. They want to be able to trust that. They want to be able to bring down their defenses, right? And the barbed wire that they put up. No, they hate it. They want to be able to trust it. So if you've established a reputation, and remember we were talking about mention a weakness first, right?
Sure.
Establishes your ethics, right?
Right.
They will come back to you because they can count on you to give them the straight scoop.
Right. Exactly. Okay, great. I'm going to mention that at our investor summit next week, because the clearest sign of amateur hour when it comes to raising capital is somebody running around saying that their deal is guaranteed, which is like saying the word bomb on an airplane in the investment industry, and saying this is the best deal you've ever seen. We're going to give you these ridiculous high returns. You've never seen a deal this good. People just back off instantly. And in their mind, they think that's what they should be saying. But instantly, people just reject that person because they know there's always risk in every deal. And they don't know what deals you've seen. And, how can you claim it's the best deal you've ever seen? Like it's the perfect deal and there's no chink in the armor. It just reeks of non-credibility, right? It's just, yeah, great. So you've been interviewed hundreds of times, maybe 1,000 times you've been interviewed. I'm not sure. So what's the smartest question in the last 40 years that anyone's ever asked you that I should be asking right now to finish off this interview?
The smartest question was to say, why shouldn't I ask you this question? And the question is, which of the 7 principles of influence should I make my go-to principle, my favorite one? Why shouldn't I ask you that question? And the answer, whoever asked me that was smart, because the answer is you shouldn't have a go-to. You shouldn't have a single favorite approach, because every situation is different. Every population is different. What you should do is find which of the principles is truly there in the situation. Do you have real scarcity, a unique offer that nobody else can provide? Do you have real social proof, a trend in your direction? Do you have real authority, people who can speak to the wisdom of what you're doing, testify to? That's what you bring. What you have inherently and ethically there in the situation, that its engine is already running. You don't have to create it. You don't have to counterfeit it. You don't have to kickstart it. It's there. You bring it to consciousness. And that's how you become massively effective and ethical at the same time.
Right. So that goes to the point of, actually, if you're watching this right now, make sure you go by Influence, the Science of Persuasion. Make sure you go by Persuasion, because it's having this repertoire of tools and knowing the 7 principles that leads you to be most effective. So I guess what you're saying is, like in any situation, in one situation, leaning on commitment and consistency or unity could be 4 times more powerful than authority or scarcity And if you just have this hammer in your hand of authority, scarcity, and you think that
Yeah.
that's the magical combination, 6 times out of 10, it's not the best thing to be talking about. It's not the best way to proceed, right?
Right. Use
Got
the
it.
one that's in there already that's inherently strong in that
Got
situation.
it.
Yeah.
Got it. The one that just in your natural
Like
environment or the
unity.
natural
Yeah. Yeah.
facts. Got it. Got it.
Find
Awesome.
that and bring it. Yeah.
Right. Appreciate that. Great. Anything else you wanted to add that we didn't get to during the conversation? Maybe something written down that you wanted to share, or something about the Cialdini Institute, or anything else about your work you'd like people to know?
We're very excited about the Cialdini Institute. It's a startup. We are offering online on-demand programs on ethical influence for business.
Great. And I can attest to not only studying the work very closely in the books, but then having my team go through the videos. They're short, and I went through every video myself too. They're short, typically, 3 to 7 minute videos. And then we would have the team members, show us their progress going through them, and we would discuss it on our weekly team calls. And even now, we point out things a year and a half later, and we reference Cialdini's work for my team going through the Cialdini Institute training. So it's very practical to go through. You're not watching 2-hour long videos and 800 hours of content. It's pretty middle of the road in terms of the length, and each video is pretty digestible. So definitely recommend it if anybody out there is considering it. And just want to thank you for your time today, Bob. That was awesome. Appreciate all the insights, everything you've done, and I'm sure that millions of others appreciate it. And you've impacted entrepreneurs globally with your principles, and I'm sure improved the lives of many families just by the work that you've done. So I hope that you know that, and you're the most highly respected person in the space. So that's congratulations on that.
Well, thank you, and great questions, Richard.
Thank
I
you,
have
Bob.
to say.
Yep. Take care.